Special shout out to all my patrons.
The trans youth thing.
You want to discuss, do trans youth deserve gender affirming care?
Yeah, I mean, the way that's worded is a bit of a, like, you put like, you've played with semantics there already with the way that you worded it.
How so?
So trans youth, right? There is no trans youth. They're just children. Right?
There are
And
people who are under the
they don't
age of...
deserve.
There
Listen to me. They don't deserve gender affirming care.
Homie.
Is by adults,
Homie.
not children. Children don't care.
Homie, there are kids who are under the age of 18, making them youth, who are trans. You can deny it all you want, but they exist. And those children deserve gender affirming care because it's life saving in a lot of instances. We also give cis children gender affirming care too. What's the issue?
No such thing as cis.
Also,
by the way, okay, I mean, you can laugh what you want. That's fine. I'm trying to have a civil discussion here, right? When you're talking about like it's saving their lives, right? What evidence do you have, right, that gender affirming care has saved anyone's life?
Yeah, so you can look...
anyone. Give me some examples, please.
Yep. So there's a study called mental health
because
outcome...
it's not been going on long enough.
Do you want me to answer you or not?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Great.
Yes.
So you got to let me answer you. So you can look at a study called Mental Health Outcomes in Transgender and Non-Binary Youths Receiving Gender Affirming Care, where we found that there was a 60% decrease in depression and suicidal thoughts among these youths. You can look at puberty blockers, pubertal suppression
by who and to whom?
What do you mean by who to whom? It's a study. Pull up the study. Who was the study done by, and how old were the children, and over what period of time was this done? Because this is a very new thing. So it was done by 3 doctors. Okay. They took
3.
Children age 13, youths age 13 to 20, and they did a follow-up with them 12 months after starting gender affirming care to see what their suicidality rate was. But this is one of multiple studies that I was giving you
12 months
prior to being interrupted. Yes, 12 months is a pretty long follow-up time of like when you start treatment to see how your depression is affected. Yeah, 12 months is a pretty good baseline.
I would to an extent concede that 12 months is a good follow-up for standard like depression, right? But when you are having adults telling you to cut off your tits and your genitals,
I don't think you know what gender affirming care is.
Okay, actually I do, because I've spoken to a lot of people about this.
What is it?
Actually, okay. Can I tell you my experience, right? When I was a kid, when I was about 7 or 8, right, I used to play around, right, with other different gendering things, right? I had sisters and stuff, right? I used to wear their underwear when I was a kid, right? I grew up to be a perfectly normal straight man that just dabbled in bisexuality, right? I've no qualms with admitting that, right? And most people that experience this stuff as children grow up to be perfectly normal straight men.
Nothing you described was a gender incongruence.
So what is a gender incongruence then?
A gender incongruence, let me pull up a good definition for you, is a marked, where did it go? I just had it pulled up. Blah, blah, blah. I want to, where is it? There's a really good definition that I have that I just keep always forgetting. So I want to say the correct thing. A marked and persistent incongruence between an individual's experienced gender and their assigned sex. Based off of what you told me, I'd say you didn't experience that. Like you wore your sister's underwear. That's not like a marked incongruence between your gender and your sex. That's just a kid putting on underwear.
What you're gonna have, what you're gonna have to do though is explain, like to the bone, definition wise, what is the difference between sex and gender. If gender is just an ideology, then we need to stop teaching that to children.
If you think gender is an ideology,
what is the difference between sex? No, tell me what the difference between sex and gender is.
Yeah, so sex would be biological markers to define your to define what side of the aisle you
whether
fit
you're
on a
male
species.
or female.
Yeah, homie, do you want me to answer you or no? It's like every time you ask me a question, you interrupt.
Sorry, I get ahead of myself. So I've got ADHD, so sorry.
So do I.
I do actually want to listen. Sorry.
Great. So sex would be any biological markers, either genotypic or phenotypic, to denote whether you're a male or a female or a variation of the two. Whereas gender would be a how your body perceives that sex in conjunction with the social roles placed upon male and female.
Okay, so where's the science behind that? That's a.
I mean, I can read you directly.
Thing,
I can read you directly out of a neuroscience textbook where it says exactly what I just said.
Okay, yeah, please do, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So when I read out of neuroscience,
by the way, before you continue, can I just make this very clear? I'm not here just to absolutely try and shut you down. If you have any points that are beknownst to mine, I am willing to learn. Right? Yeah,
okay.
Just make that. I'm not here to have a massive row.
Okay. Well, I'll just read you directly out of Neuroscience Second Edition. It says sex can be considered in terms of three categories. So you have your genotypic sex, your phenotypic sex, and your gender. Genotypic sex refers specifically to an individual's two sex chromosomes. Phenotypic sex refers to an individual's sex as determined by their internal and external genitalia, as well as their expression of secondary sex characteristics and behavior. And then gender refers broadly to an individual's subjective perception of their sex and their sexual orientation. And generally speaking, gender identity entails self-appraisal according to the traits most often associated with one sex or another, called gender traits, and these can be influenced to some degree by cultural norms. So exactly what I said, I just worded it slightly differently to make sense to people who don't read textbooks.
Sure. No problem. And I appreciate you reading the definition there. If you look into the where all of this stuff came from, do you know who Alfred Kinsley is?
I've heard the name before. I don't know what it has to do with
so Alfred Kinsley, and there's also someone called Magnus Hirschfeld, right? These are the two main people that started this gender reassignment sex thing. Right, look up Alfred Kinsley, right?
Wait, but I don't know what this has to do with anything because I don't really care who started this concept.
No.
I care if the concept is medically sound.
It's very relevant. It's very relevant. Alfred Kinsley did experiments on little children sexually, and he's one of the main people that pushed all of this. And so is Magnus Hirschfeld, right? And he was one of the first people that said. And there was also a guy, Magnus Hirschfeld, right? He did an experiment with twins, right? And he raised one as a boy and one as a girl. And the one, they both killed themselves. is mental. So it's obviously like not. This is a psychological thing, not a biological thing. Is mad. Have you ever looked into Alfred Kinsley? Look into what he did.
Yeah, I have, and based from the Kinsey Institute
It's
says that like
insane.
the Kinsey Institute is saying like most of the stuff you're saying is a lie. Like when I fact check this, it's saying that it's a lie.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course they would. Do you want to like read the book?
Well, the American Civil Liberties Union also says it's a lie. I mean,
man. Do you want to actually read the textbooks? Don't listen to any articles about it. Don't listen to any articles about it. Read his books that he published and the experiments that he did on little children, because it's all there in black and white. Don't read articles about it. Actually read what he did. Then
I'm not showing any experiments.
Come and tell me that he was a good guy and he was for freedom and trans activists and all that, because the geezer was a fucking pervert.
I never said anything about him. I don't care about him. I don't think he matters in the conversation at all. You do.
Well, he matters because he's like the founder of trans activism.
Should I use microphones? Should I use microphones because Nazis created the modern microphone? Does it matter that Nazis created like the tool, like the specific things that we use in modern microphones to make them work? Does that matter? Or are all microphones bad?
No, of course not.
Great.
That's like saying.
So the person.
That's like saying. Yeah, I'm sure Hitler used toilet paper. Yeah. It's
great. So
yeah, of course.
Albert Kinsey does not matter in this conversation. Then thank you.
Right. Okay. Cool. Right. I get all that. Do you not understand from someone else's perspective though that why this shouldn't be taught to children?
No, I think we should be teaching children comprehensive gender education so that way they are not confused.
No, I think that's absolutely insane. Do you know children, right? Actually, they are not race conscious. They're not gender conscious.
That's not true.
They are just children.
That's not true. Children, according to the... I'm going to correct you. I'm going to correct you. Hold on, I'm going to correct you.
Okay.
According to the American Psychological Association and the American Pediatric Association, children begin to understand gender in other things at about the age of 2. They're able to recognize mom and dad and recognize that they are separate and one is a boy and one is a girl. They're able to recognize gender in toys, gender in characters. And then at the age of 4, they're able to start having gender incongruencies. These are all facts. You can say no, but it doesn't make it not true.
Well, you've just shot yourself in the foot there, because you've said to me that sex and gender are 2 different things. And so a baby, right, with like when they can recognize the roles of a mum and a dad, right, so a male and a female, that's recognizing sex and their,
that would be gender,
and their paternal roles, right? But
wait, did you not listen to what I said? Did you not listen to what I said? You didn't, because I said they recognize mom and dad and they recognize that they are boys and girls. It's like you only listen to the first half of what I say, and then you get ready to no, they recognize the difference between boys and girls, and they recognize that boys and girls are a thing, and can even point out boys and girls and men and women in their daily lives. That starts happening at 2. Yeah. And then at 4 is when they really start to come into their own gender in and of themselves and can recognize gender in their own body and start to have these incongruencies.
Can you just, because you keep saying this word, can you define incongruency, because you keep saying it a lot? What do you mean by this?
An incongruence
is it like inconsistency?
Yes, to an extent, yes. It would be like an inconsistency, something that's not like, it's a lack of like harmony, a lack of agreement is another word. So yeah, so that's like what incongruent, like the state of not being in agreement with something or harmony with something, that would be an incongruency.
Cool. I just wanted to make sure we was on the same level there. You've accepted and put back to me the fact that kids can separate and know naturally what is a boy and what is a girl, right?
Yeah, by the age of 3, usually before their 3rd birthday, they can easily label themselves as boy or girl and label other people boys
Sweet.
and girls. By age
Sure,
4, they start to
man.
develop their gender identity.
No. That's adult. That is adults putting gender shit on them.
It's not.
Just leave them to it, and they will grow up to be perfectly normal, whatever
It's
they
not.
are.
You're
no. This whole
backing.
gender shit.
You're making a claim with no
separating
backing.
sex from gender is absolutely mental. What
making
are you doing?
claims-
You
you're
are
making
indoctrinating
claims with no
young kids,
backing.
and you are confusing them.
You're making claims with no backing.
Well, tell me why you need to tell any children after the age of 4 that they should be thinking about whether they are boys or girls or not.
I
That's
don't
is
think we
fucking
need
mental.
to tell them anything. I think they have these
But you
feelings. I don't know how many times.
No, but you do.
I don't know how
You
many
reinforce
times you
it.
need to interrupt before you learn to like let me finish a sentence.
Sorry, I've ADHD. Sorry.
So do I. It's not an excuse. I have it too. So again,
I do actually want to have this conversation. Sorry.
It doesn't seem like you do. You're very much listening to respond and not listening to actually hear what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we should be telling kids they have these incongruencies or forcing them on these kids. I'm saying that naturally some children are going to have these whether we want them to or not, because we as a society already put them into categories that they may not fit in and they may be uncomfortable in. So instead of forcing them to hide this stuff and to feel bad, we should be encouraging them to freely explore who they are and recognize that they may feel differently about themselves than we want to prescribe onto them. So if I have a child who comes to me and goes, I hate wearing dresses. I have a little girl and she says, I don't like wearing dresses. They make me feel bad. I don't like being called a girl. It makes me feel bad. She may not, the child may not be able to say, hey, I'm trans, but they can recognize that something feels off when I call them girl or daughter. So what I would do as a parent is I wouldn't immediately go, hey, let's throw you into therapy. Let's do this. I would just not call them girl. I would say, okay, cool. What do you want to be called? I'll give you that little bit of autonomy over yourself and that little bit of agency so that you don't feel like shit all the time.
Little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I would maybe concede a few things there. Right? Listen, when you are talking and when you're teaching children things, right, you have to be very delicate, right? Because I look back to when I was a kid, right, and I was very influenced by what people told me, right? Now, if I had an identity crisis, right, it didn't mean that I was a girl. It just meant that I liked certain other things, or I didn't like football, or I liked other stuff. It didn't mean that I want my dick cut off, right? But there are people out there that are actually pushing their children to actively like mutilate themselves.
That's not
there
happening.
are and no listen, this is not like a conspiracy theory, right? There are plenty of cases I can show you of people that have regretted transitionary like surgeries, right?
Yeah, so we've done 2.
Not only have loads of them killed themselves, loads of them are now activists against the. Well, I've met one of them, so
great. That's fine. But we've done multiple studies on this.
Don't tell me it's a lie, because I've met one of them and I know one of them.
I am going to tell you it's a lie. We've done multiple studies on this. We have done multiple studies on this. One of them's regret after gender affirming surgery, which is a massive review of literature. And we found that the detransition rate of people who detransition.
What literature? The literature doesn't exist because it's new.
There is tons of literature on this. We have been
What?
looking
What?
at
What
detransition.
ones? Go on.
We've
Go
been
on.
looking at.
Tell me a book. Tell me a book. Tell me a book.
I'm going to say it again. If you don't interrupt me, you will hear it.
No, because you can't. No, because you can't. 'Cause you can't tell me.
I was literally in the process of giving you a source, and you interrupted me to say,
Okay.
"Give me a source."
Okay.
You see how that works?
Sorry. Listen, it's my ADHD. Sorry.
Fam, I also have ADHD. You can't keep using it as an excuse. I have it too.
Okay. I have ADHD, and also I'm annoying.
I'll agree with that. So this first one is regret after gender affirming surgery, a multidisciplinary approach to a multifaceted patient experience. This is a study that found that the amount of people who detransitioned and stay detransitioned is 0.3%. Now, on the high end, you have studies such as gender identity 5 years after social transition, which puts the number at around 1.3 to 3%. But even on the high end, we're looking at a rate of people who detransition of about 3% of the population. That is not a lot of people, right? 3% of them is not a lot of them. So what's actually happening is the bulk of people who go through gender affirming care and even go through gender affirming surgeries stay transitioned, and they remain transitioned because it's making them happy, and it's what they want to do with life.
Okay. I will concede to that to some extent. But you have to understand, when you're talking about you can talk about gender affirming care, which is a very broad term anyway. But when you're talking about gender affirming surgery, people that have gone through actual transitionary surgery, that's a very new thing. So lots of these people have never made it to old age, right? So the stats on that, we don't really know yet. Loads of them have killed themselves, actually. I think it's like 7 out of 10 or so. Oh no, that's a different stat I was thinking about. There is really high in the trans community. People that regret the transition.
The suicide attempt rate for transgender people is anywhere from 30 to 50%. That's the attempt rate. Okay. But again, we have the numbers to show that after gender affirming care, that the percentage of people who feel depression and suicidal thoughts drops by 60%. Also, you keep bringing up surgery, but and you said we can talk about care and care is different, but read my first point again. I am only talking about gender affirming care. I think surgery is an aspect of it, but I think it should be individualized. I think if surgery is what's needed to keep a kid alive, give them surgery. If it's not, don't worry about it. They can get it later when they want it. But if it comes down to a kid's life and chopping off a titty, I say chop off a titty.
Okay, that's a relatively humorous way to put it, actually. Can I ask you seriously, though? Do you let's not make people statistics, right? Let's talk about people because all of this stuff, it's the same with abortion and stuff. When you argue it, it's too circumstantial, right? The whole argument is not left and right. It's too circumstantial. And there are certain cases where perhaps it may work, perhaps it might, and perhaps it might be detrimental. But would you not concede that teaching this stuff to people so damn young is going to mess with their heads a little bit?
So first of all, I've been saying from the start that it should be individualized. Okay, that's what I mean when I say individualized. So I'm not focused on stats. Second of all, no, I think teaching them comprehensive gender, sex, and health education is going to stop the confusion, because we have kids who may be feeling a certain way and go, well, I just think I'm trans because that's what I see. But if we teach them that there are other things, maybe they're just gender nonconforming, maybe they're gender fluid, maybe they're non-binary, maybe they're this, maybe they're that, they'll have an understanding and won't just jump to the first thing they see on TikTok, because they've had people who are educated in gender formally help them through that, as opposed to I went and saw Kelly Kerrigan on TikTok and now I want to chop off a titty.
Okay, but would you maybe concede that, like, for example, there are age limits on things like the age of consent. You don't let people smoke until they're of a certain age. You don't let them vote. You don't let them drink. But yet you let them believe their gender. I think that's fucking balmy. I think that's mental.
Yeah, so I think they're two vastly different things.
I don't think they are.
I think gender and smoking are vastly different. Everyone has gender, right? Everyone has a gender in them.
But you admitted earlier that gender is conceptual.
What do you mean when you say conceptual?
So gender and you said earlier that sex, right, is biological, right? And everyone has gender, and gender is conceptual.
I said that gender is subjective to the person.
Same thing. It's subjective, conceptual is the same thing. So if you can't let children vote or smoke or drink or do drugs or any of that stuff, why do you think it's pertinent for them to be able to choose if they want to cut their dick off or not?
So I was answering this question before I got interrupted by you again. So I'll start answering it again. I think that all of these children have a gender identity that begins at around 4 years old, and that gender identity should be respected.
I thought I was Spider-Man when I was 8. I know you're annoyed that
you wanted to talk so bad. I'm giving you the floor.
Okay, so I know you're annoyed that I just piped in there, but my point really, and I really, really, really want you to hone this in, right? If children aren't allowed to vote or drink or smoke or any of these decisions, why are we teaching it in schools to little kids that haven't gone through puberty yet and don't really know who they are or don't really think about this stuff? Also, they're not even really race conscious, right? And they're like talk about critical race theory and all this nonsense.
I was answering this question when you interrupted with the Spider-Man nonsense. I was literally answering this thing that you keep asking me. The third time I was trying to answer it and you interrupted. Would you like me to answer it or no?
Yes, please. I'll shut up.
Great. So again, based on all the research we have, children become conscious of gender as early as 2 years old and become aware of their gender identity as early as 4. You can try to deny that, but nothing you say defeats the fact that we've studied this and show this through the research. Now, if you have a child whose gender identity is different than what everyone is calling them, that's going to lead to distress in the child. And that's going to lead to higher suicidality among this particular group. My goal is to get these kids to not want to blow their brains out. So I'm going to allow them to explore their gender and try to understand comprehensively what they're feeling so they don't blow their brains out.
Okay. Can I respond?
Go ahead.
Okay, so when I was in you're American, right?
Correct.
So we call elementary school primary school, right? When I was in primary school in the 90s, at no point did I ever, when I was like wondering, who am I? What am I doing in my life? This, that, not at no point did I ever want to blow my brains out.
You weren't experiencing gender incongruency, so why would you?
No, and I tell you, and I tell you why. It's because no adults told me about it.
Okay.
No adults in the 90s told children about transgenderism. So no children cared about it, and we didn't think about it. When you put that in their heads, it gives them a mental condition. You are making children mentally ill by proxy.
Sorry, I'm looking around for the relevancy. I can't find it.
You are
find
making
the relevancy
children.
anywhere.
You are making children mentally ill by proxy.
Based on what?
Based on basic fucking psychology.
Really, because basic psychology is what tells us that children have gender incongruencies as young as 4. So try again.
Yeah, in the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, when this is all this cultural Marxist bollocks got put into schools. In the 90s, when I was in primary school, no one in my schools ever felt like they was in a different body, or they was this or
They
that
did.
Or the other.
They did.
And
They did.
And no.
You're
and tell
telling
you
me.
what,
Wait. Stop.
No, listen. Shush.
No.
The people that did.
I'm
The
not
people
gonna
that did.
shush. I'm
grew
literally
up,
not gonna shush.
The people that grew up,
Oh my
they
fucking
grew up
God.
to be perfectly normal gay men.
You're telling me that every single person you went to school with, every single one of them is cisgender. Yeah. Right now, you're telling me every single one of them is cisgender.
Some of them grew up to be perfectly normal gay men.
That wasn't what I asked.
What are you asking?
Did every single person you go to school with grow up to be cisgender? Yes or no?
I don't do that cis thing.
Yes
or
no?
I don't do this cis
Yes.
thing. No, I don't. I don't know what that means.
Because I have a
Explain
feeling.
cis.
I have a feeling.
Explain cis.
It means
What
you're
is
not
this?
trans. Really simple concept. So I have a feeling
Just say man or woman.
No, I have a feeling if I went and interviewed
What's the relevancy of cis?
Let me finish. I have a feeling if I went and interviewed
I'm not using the word
every
cis.
single person you went to school with, some of them would be trans. And I have a feeling that if I asked them when you started feeling this way, they would say an age you would fucking be surprised of. Anyway, knock knock.
No.
Knock knock.
I mean, some of them
knock knock.
Turn out to be
Knock, knock.
perfectly normal gay men.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Not you.